Today, sweetheart.
I'm absolutely super fantastic. And I'm going to go ahead and share this on Facebook so we can go in when we start at 12. There are people coming in right now. They got their reminders. Um, this is awesome. I'm doing fantastic. I'm with one
Great.
of my favorite authors. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm really excited too because it feels like 2022 is finally starting to shape up in terms of, okay, what is this year going to be like? There's two graphic novels, and now we're starting to. It looks very, very much. I really think that there's a movie that is probably going to happen. It's going to be low budget, but it looks like it actually is going to happen. And then there are several television things. We have the best circle of allies we have ever had. And I mean, people who are of high accomplishment and high capacity, who are also sweethearts and who see us. And that's important to feel seen, you know,
it is. It is.
it really is.
I love when you say, I believe in love.
Oh,
The first
absolutely.
step is loving yourself and being all right with being alone, if that's what happens. When you said that and you were doing this and saying, you know what, I want to do and give back to share about my journey. I don't think I've seen any other man besides Shakir, Rashawn, and my son that light up when talking about their beloveds the way that you do.
I I know I am blessed. I know that God gave me a chance if I could step up and be the man that was worthy to stand at her side. Tananarive is an exceptional woman. She's not normal. If I didn't have an entirely different range of my life, the whole martial arts and yoga and stuff like this, she'd intimidate me because Hollywood sees who she is, just like I saw who she is, and they're more attracted to her work than to mine. That hurts my ego. So I could see how I could go into a needy, wounded, abandoned child space. But
Mhm.
I've got the martial arts part of me that says that my job is to be a warrior for my family, which means that I should be a knight at her service. And if she is the
Aw.
queen, if you know what I mean, I get to sleep with the queen. So,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
it's how can what kind of nonsense would it be for anybody to be offended because the world sees she's special just like I did the first time I read her book? It's not her fault for being exceptional. She didn't ask to be better than me or better loved than me or more successful in that particular slice of reality than me. She's
Mhm.
just following her bliss and was prepared by her mother to be the absolute best human being she could be. And if I can keep my ego out of it, this is the ride of a lifetime. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And she needs someone who can see how precious she is and how vulnerable she is and how much she needs someone who will just love her. And it is my honor to do that. She's trusting me. She's trusting me to see her heart, to not think that she's some kind of machine that Hollywood is just, she's not an ATM. She's not a jukebox. She's not a Vegas one-armed bandit. She's a human being with the same hopes and needs as the rest of us. So it's a fascinating experience. And what I feel is, it's not that we don't fight and have problems, but no, we really do love each other. This is
I can't tell.
yeah, you can only fake this for so long. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I figure. If you put out enough content, eventually people kind of say, maybe they're not faking. How long can you fake that? So if there's a touch of fumbling about, we'll get it all worked out. Oh, yeah, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I had to turn off the reminder from the iPad. The Zoom is saying, hey, at 2 o'clock, you're supposed to
Yep.
be with Stephen Barnes, and we're already ahead of the game. So this is an amazing experience to be with you here today, talking about the lover's journey, which is a takeoff of your writer's journey, because you have that going on and have had that
Yes.
on for years. But for you to tailor it for lovers, is an amazing thing. When I first heard your story of how you met Tananarive Due, and of course you're going to tell that story, right?
Absolutely. And I'm going
Okay.
to, I'm going to follow the old marketing advice or the old teaching advice. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So because this is a complex series of interlocking thoughts, if any, take notes, and if any one thing that I'm going to say could change everything, but the more of it you see, the easier it's going to be for you to understand the shape of what it is that I'm saying and I'm trying to communicate here. This is the work of a lifetime in many ways. I think that there are three different basic arenas of life: our bodies, our hearts, our minds. Our physical health and fitness, the way we deal with our emotions, fear and love, and our hunting and gathering, our intellectual problem solving, and of course our spiritual growth. If you take a look, and we will talk about all these different things. Please go ahead. I'm just like burbling. I'm just so ready to go. Okay.
First and
Okay.
foremost, I got to hear the story of how you met Tananarive Due.
Okay.
But first of all, everybody, this is Stephen Barnes. He's a New York Times bestselling author of multiple novels. My favorite is Lion's Blood, but he's married to my second beloved, which would be Tananarive Due. Her book, My Soul to Keep. That was my absolute favorite. So, okay, back to you. How did you meet this?
Okay, I promise I will get to that in just a second. Let me kind of go through these slides, which will enable me to sort of keep my thoughts on track. Okay. I promise the story about meeting her is one of the very first things that I will do, but with your kind indulgence, so that I don't get too lost. If you do that. So here is a little thing that we put together.
It's 1997. I'm a newly published author, and I'm invited to this amazing Black Fantastic Arts Conference.
Turn that up a little bit.
Samuel Delaney, Jewel Gomez, and Stephen Barnes. Steve was already a pioneer and science fiction writer, but I've had another introduction to his work. We control the heart. During the 1990s reboot of The Outer Limits, Steve wrote this amazing episode called A Stitch in Time, starring Amanda Plummer.
Can you turn it up?
Like, I have got to meet this guy. I only watched that episode because a friend was already trying to set us up from a distance, and someone also told Steve about me. You really love this photo, right, honey?
Well, I loved your Stephen King story. Tananarive talked about how she got a cover blurb from Stephen King by playing in his band, The Rock Bottom Remainders. And when I read her first book, she was just a fantastic writer.
I lived in Miami and he lived in Washington State, but we got married a year and a half later. We just knew. Of course, two married writers are always collaborating. We co-raised Nikki, Steve's daughter. We're raising our son, Jason. We also collaborated on novels with actor Blair Underwood, and we still collaborate on scripts. We're both huge Jordan Peele fans. We both met in LA to talk to my Black horror class. Also our online class, and he invited us to Monkey Pot to pitch for his new show.
This was a real full circle moment for me. I wrote a couple of episodes of The Twilight Zone back in the 80s. Now we've written a new episode for season 2 called A Small Town.
We both love to write, and between us, we've written so many horror, science fiction, fantasy, thriller, scripts, and short stories. We're so proud of it.
So that's the sound was too low, sweetheart?
It was.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So just consider that to be a series of images of representing our relationship.
I'm a newly published author, and I'm invited.
So over the course of the next hour and a half, you're going to learn a bunch of different things that we call one mirror magic, the soulmate process, what I call the beauty power axis, the magic formula, the 5-minute miracle, the 3 gates, the 3 centers, the gap, finding your tribe and sensing the green light, and something that is very, very special at the end, the blessing dance. So I'll be talking to you during much of this, and then Tananarive will actually come in during the last, after the first hour, and we will look at these questions from her perspective as opposed to just mine. So Before we go into my story, I wanted to give you an outline, Joseph Campbell's model of the hero's journey, modified slightly. Let's call it the Shero's journey, since we have an audience of beautiful women today. And let's compare it to the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope. Hopefully you guys have seen that, the first one that was released, because the Campbell's model breaks down beautifully if you look at that. So initially, and I look at the hero's journey as being the elders of the tribe communicating with the younger people of the tribe. This is what your life is going to be. And it can be used to understand a story, or to understand the process of writing a story, or to understand life itself. So the pattern very quickly is, you're confronted with a challenge. In Star Wars, it was, come with me, Luke, learn the ways of the Force. Initially, you will reject the challenge due to fear, because any real challenge in your life is going to change you. And the ego thinks it's you, does not like that idea. And so in Luke's case, it was, I promised Uncle Owen I'd work on the moisture evaporators. Can't do it. The third step is you accept the challenge, or there's no story. In this case, it was, teach me to be a Jedi like my father. And then you have the road of trials. That's just the distance that you travel. Mos Eisley Cantina, that wretched hive of scum and villainy, the Alderaan, the Death Star, those places. Then you have allies and powers. These are the people who teach you to do the things that you don't have the ability to do now, and give you the abilities that you're going to need in order to successfully complete your mission. His allies would be Han Solo and Leia and Chewbacca and Obi-Wan. His powers are courage and piloting and using a lightsaber and using the Force, stuff like that. Initially, you confront evil and are defeated. In case of Star Wars, it was that Obi-Wan got killed, because Obi-Wan was supposed to be the one who would take him to the next level of his life. In any profound journey, you have to hit failure. It's just like you go to the gym and you lift weights until you get muscle failure. That's what triggers your mind and actually tells you to grow. So it is actually, if you don't get that, if you never fail, you never have to grow. So it's like when you succeed, you party, and when you fail, you ponder. It's necessary. It's a necessary part of the process. That failure will throw you into what's called the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is, the moment where it feels like nothing you have is enough to fulfill this situation. You're just not going to be able to succeed. In Star Wars, it was the Death Star was about to destroy the rebel base. Step 8 is the leap of faith. Now, faith is always faith in something, in one of the following three things: faith in yourself, faith in your companions, or faith in a higher power. It's always one of those three things. So in Star Wars, it was trust your feelings, Luke. It was actually all three of those things, because it was his feelings connected him to the Force, and also Han Solo comes diving in out of the sun and blows up Darth Vader's wingman. The ninth step, if you take those other steps, is you confront evil, and this time you're successful, blowing up the Death Star. And the last step is the student becomes a teacher. This is where you move to the next level and then turn around and help other members of your community get there. So in this particular case, everybody gets medals, which show that this is the behavior we want people to imitate, except, of course, poor Chewbacca didn't get a medal. So that's the hero's journey per se. Any questions about that, hun?
Not at all. But if you have any questions, the people who are in the chat room, if you have questions, you can drop them in there and we will read them off to Steve. He's also able to see the chat as well. So everyone who has a question, you can just drop it right there in the chat and we will get to it. This is amazing. The Shero's journey. I liked when you said, when we succeed, we party. When we fail, we ponder. I like, is that a Stephen Barnesism?
No, it's not a Stephen Barnesism. I forget exactly where I got it, but I think it's true. As a matter of fact, any individual piece of what I'm talking about here, none of this is original. The synthesis of it is original. So I'm breaking down a whole lifetime of study into the simplest form I can find. And I will answer all the questions that I possibly can. And where the questions that I can't answer, I promise, I'll cop to it. So can you still see? I've got a chat window up here on my screen. So I'll move it over there to the side.
I'll let you know if we have something in the chat. So
okay, can you see the chat? Can you see my chat window?
I can't see your chat window. I see the chat window. And
Okay,
that's
great. So
everybody.
I can see it and you can, and it's not blocking. That's all. I
Yes,
wanted to
sir.
make sure it's not
Mhm.
blocking anything.
No,
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me get the chat window off here. It's not letting me move forward.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
handle the chat. You handle the chatting.
okay.
Okay, that was corny. I get it.
Okay. I'm going to need to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the share for a moment
Okay.
because, you know, I'm still negotiating this thing and trying to figure out how do I do this? So, okay, chat, no, share screen. There we go. There we go. And
We see it full on. Now we
okay.
see the whole presentation. So go back to view.
Yeah, I will do that in just a second. What I needed to do was to get out of, oh, okay. So I was absolutely fine. I didn't realize I was fine. Okay, so before I begin, some of the things I'm going to say are going to be stressful. Stress is associated with any period of change. The thing that you have to understand is that stress doesn't hurt you. It's strain that hurts you. There was a guy named, the guy who created the concept of stress. His name is Hans Selye, and he spoke about 6 languages. And before he died, he said that if English had been his first language, he would have been known as the father of strain rather than the father of stress. And the difference is that stress is like this, it's pressure per unit area. Strain is deformation per unit length. This is what hurts you. When you get so much stress that you can no longer adapt to it healthfully. So what we need in life is stress, enough stress to trigger the growth response, but then we need to be able to control it so it doesn't become this strain. And the fastest way I know of doing that is you just set your watch or your phone for 3 hours, or if you're under a lot of stress, every hour. At the top of the hour, you just breathe deep, slow diaphragmatic breathing for 60 seconds. If you will do that in 5 minutes a day, you can rewire the stress response so that stress actually helps you trigger a reintegrative growth response. So remember that in life, they pay you for how much stress you can take without breaking. Same thing is true in relationships. You know, there's going to be stress. And in being honest about where you are and what you want in relationships, there are going to be some stressful moments. Some of these things are going to be challenging. So I wanted to give you a tool to deal with the stress before you get there, because I want you to be able to engage honestly with this process. All right. So remember, the first step is the challenge. When the lover is ready, the beloved will appear. It's like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Let me give you my story. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of my story, and then I'm going to break it down so that you can see what's going on. Back in 1995, 94, the Silmar earthquake in Los Angeles just trashed my wife, my first wife, her interest in living in California. So she decided she wanted to move up to Washington. So I had a choice between either keeping my family or keeping my career. And I chose my family, my daughter especially, because nothing even comes close. It was a painful decision, but it's a quick decision when you have your values clear. But when I got up there, I gave my house back to the bank, packed everything into a truck, drove up there. When I got up there, my ex told me, by the way, Steve, I've moved into a place that's too small for you. I don't want to live with you anymore. She had nuked me. We had both made mistakes in our marriage, and she had chosen this opportunity to just nuke me. And looking back on it, I can laugh at it. But at that point, I was living in an apartment in Vancouver, 1,000 miles away from any friends. All I had was a bed, a television set, my dog, and a gun. I mean, a bad, bad, bad combination. So I began to try to figure out, well, I'd lost myself. I had literally lost myself. And I had a certain cocky self-confidence that had guided me through life, and I'd lost it. I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. So I figured, what would I say if one of my students was in this situation? So I said, I don't know what I want. Well, I don't know what I want, but I don't know who I am, but I know what I want. if I can define, and I've always considered that men and women are two halves of the same coin. That what we're attracted to is some idealized sense of self if we have a healthy sense of self and a healthy self-love. So I said, if I can define clearly the kind of woman I want, it will imply the kind of man I want to be. Because what I want to be is to be the kind of man who can attract a woman like that. So I actually listed everything that I wanted in a woman without any compromises at all. For the first time in my life, just no compromise. I don't care, it's like her beauty, her intelligence, her sensuality, her success, everything. And then it was find someone. Let me find the person who comes the closest to this out of everybody I know. And I'm going to sit her down, whether she's married or not. And I'm going to sit her down. I'm going to ask her, what is she looking for in a man? Because what she describes, if I have chosen properly, if I have been honest and I have been clear-headed, what she describes is what I really want to be. And it will shake me out of my doldrums. Well, it just so happened that I knew a woman who was exceptionally attractive, who I thought was just absolutely stunning and really sweet, very spiritual and very fit. And on January the 1st, 24 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I sat her down and asked her this question. Now, it just so happened she was just coming out of a relationship. So it was kind of a convenient moment. And we pretended for a while that we were interested in each other. She realized first that we were not really suited for each other. But during that period of time, I actually managed to extract from her some notions about, well, what is it that doesn't match about me? And there were two things. One of them was that she wanted someone with more of a spiritual base. And the other one was she was a dancer and she wanted somebody who had less body fat on them. And I realized, oh my God, I stopped meditating and I stopped running. I'd lost myself because of the depression. And so all I had to do was start meditating again, start running again. I got back on the course. Now, I totally blew my relationship with her. I was just so open-hearted and loving and just expressive and told her how I felt and everything. And she was like, just backed away. So I said to myself, something is wrong. In the time I've been married, I seem to have forgotten what relationships really are. Let me act as if I'm an anthropologist from Mars, and I'm just going to study male and female relationships. And I'm going to see, what is it I'm missing here? I thought I did everything right. So I was going to a convention. It was held at a Red Lion Inn. And I sat in the lobby of the Red Lion Inn all day long. And I just watched couples walking through the lobby. And after about 4 hours, I noticed something that blew my mind. It was so politically incorrect, I could barely believe what it seemed like I was seeing. What it was the more beautiful the woman was, the more likely she was to be with a guy who seemed to be ignoring her. And I said, what is going on here? My first thought was, well, this is dysfunctional. Why would she do that? Maybe they're sick inside something. And then I thought, no, that's too easy. To a certain degree, beauty is health, a healthy person, a healthy body, a healthy animal attractiveness, the self-respect and creativity to know how to wear clothes and hair and use makeup to present yourself. So in a way, these beautiful women are like lionesses. They're healthy animals in their prime. And then I thought, well, what does a lioness want? She wants a lion. It's as simple as that. And then I thought about some things I knew about animal physiology, that predators, lions, have their eyes set in front. They're looking for prey. Herbivores have their eyes set on the side. They're looking for lions. And I said, oh my God, they're a hunting pair. That when they're in public, they're not looking at each other. They're hunting. They're looking where they're going. That's what she wants to know. Are you a hunter? And I realized why my relationship with this one woman, this really beautiful woman, why I'd blown it up, why it hadn't worked. Because from the way I had come on to her, I had to either be a predator looking to take advantage of her, my eyes were on her, or I was an herbivore afraid of her, not on her level. She was 100% right to reject me. That whatever else might have been going on, I had completely blown it. So I thought, how can I test my theory? So I looked around the convention. I found the most attractive woman at the convention, and she was sitting with two guys who were trying to chat her up. And one of these guys had been in a panel I'd done earlier dealing with martial arts or something. So I went and got between her and him, turned my back to her and started talking to him and just kind of chatting him up. And then after a minute or two, I turned around, looked at her and said, "You're very attractive." And then I turned my back on her, kept talking. She followed me around like a puppy for the rest of the convention. It was astounding. Years later, she hunted me down on Facebook and started to chat me up again. I said, "What? Could it be that easy?" I started playing with that energy of being totally focused and balanced and a little detached, and found that it worked frighteningly well. I was having reactions from women that I'd never gotten before. Then I was invited to the Clark Atlanta University to something called the African American Fantastic Imagination Conference. And the effect I was having on women at that kind, I don't want to be too specific out of delicacy, was I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, I picked up a waitress while another woman was sitting at the table with me. I mean, it was one woman started writing me erotic love poetry within half an hour after meeting me. It was just like, what is going on here? And I went to my room that night, and I literally fell on my knees in prayer. And I said, "God, I understand now. I understand what this aspect of the game is. And I understand that I could be the dog of all time, but this isn't what I want. What I want is a partner. What I want is someone who I can really share my heart with. No games. And if I have to wait the rest of my life to find her, that is what I'll do." And the next morning, I met Tananarive Due. I'm going to save this until late, rest what happened until later on, and she's actually with us. But that is sincerely, I've scrubbed some stuff for the sake of privacy, but that is honestly what happened. And what I want to do now is to lay out a process and analyze, put a tremendous amount of thought was, what did I do? Because when I met Tananarive, what we found out was that we'd gone through very similar processes. And when I looked out at the world, I realized this is replicable, that I'm seeing versions of this in all these successful couples that I'm seeing. And I began to codify it and then to teach it. So before I go to the next slide, any comments, questions, or requests?
There are people who are saying some things on the live chat. Bridget McGill, Stephen, I love your heart for your wife. It's beautiful. So there are people who are commenting on Facebook itself. They are watching.
What I will say beyond any doubt, without any reservation, I adore Tananarive. I adore her. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. I love her with all my heart. I'm speaking my truth because I believe in love. I believe in connection. I believe in lasting love. We've been together 23 years now, and we're still crazy about each other. And I believe that we can all have this. Maybe we can't all be Olympic athletes or make $1 million, but I believe that every chipmunk in the forest can find a partner. That we can do this as human beings. That society and our egos have damaged a natural, innate hindbrain process. We are all descended from thousands of generations of human beings who found mates. We're programmed for this. So all I'm going to talk about is, how do we get back to that programming? How do we get back to what God or evolution or whatever you want to say gave us, and to have one thing that I believe that we are really entitled to, finding someone in the world who gets us and wants to be with us. So if the second step is the rejection of the challenge, I beg you, do not let cynicism or other people's opinions or your past failures or broken relationships stop you from demanding from the world the love to which you are entitled. Don't let fear stop you. Take a deep breath once every hour if you need to, a minute of breathing every hour if you need to, until you deal with that stress and you're ready to actually be happy. The Dalai Lama said that the meaning of life is to seek joy. You have the right to be happy. Our relationships are one way that we can make ourselves happy, but to not get too far ahead of things, you have to be happy within yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to know that you are okay and you are whole by yourself. If you want a whole human being, a healthy human being, a non-dependent, codependent relationship human being, you have to be ready for it. When the lover is ready, the beloved will appear. So this is about getting right with yourself, okay? Now, let's define soulmate. If the first step is commitment to finding a soulmate, we have to define the term. What is a soulmate? Well, we define it as a soulmate is someone who, when you meet them, you can feel the pathway to a life of joy, health, and passion, contribution, success, opening before you. The door opens and they feel the same way. It's not just coming from one side. You see them, they see you. It's like, oh, they do a Scooby take. Oh, you're here. Cool. Let's do this. The clarity that you need to be able to not just be ready for that and to recognize that is extraordinary. Most people, this happens, when it happens kind of accidentally. I'm suggesting a path that allows you to be purposeful about it. So here's the first step along your road of trials. It's the second step, rather. You make a list on paper. You literally list the qualities and attributes of the mate you desire. You do this. You actually write it down. And here's the trick. No compromises. For once in your life, stop holding yourself back. Admit that you want that beauty and that power and that success and that sensuality. You want somebody slamming. You want somebody who is everything that you really desire. You have to be willing to listen to your heart. What did you really want before life started beating the hell out of you? Before life told you that you could not have the things that you want? What did you really want? The best model that I know of what human beings are is the yogic chakras. It's 6,000-year-old yogic psychology. It goes beyond the Greek triad of body, mind, and spirit. It's the most complex model I know. And so let's kind of use that model. You have 7 supposedly energy centers. Like I said, they're metaphors. They're not literal. If you cut somebody open, you don't find chakras inside them, okay? They just bleed a lot. But in terms from the bottom of the top, Muladhara, Svasthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Anja, and Sahasrara, that you go from core survival to sexuality, to power, to emotion, to communication, to intellect, to spirit. Now, it's basically saying the same energy manifesting at different levels, but you don't need to look at all 7 of these things. That might be too complicated if you're not used to it. Let's boil it down into 3 groups, where the first 3 chakras are called your belly brain. That's the home of instinct. That is your physical body, your physical aliveness. The second chakra is, or rather, second energy center is the heart and the throat. It is emotion, both fear and love, and communication, your capacity to speak the truth, to learn. And then there's the head chakra. That's your intellect, problem solving, your hunting and gathering, and of course your spirit, that the sense of what is important, what will last beyond your own lifetime, what is more important than your ego. Almost everyone has something that's more important to them than their egos. Is it your family? Is it your country? Is it your God? Is it your dreams of contributing to the world so that people, after you're long dead, will still be riding the waves that you stirred in the ether? Whatever that is, if you just look at those 3 centers, and you make sure that your list covers all three of them. You're going to be more honest and more direct than most people are most of the time. So those three centers, gut, heart, and head, action, emotions, and ideas. Starting with the gut, what kind of physical body do you want your partner to have? And be honest about this. What are you attracted to? What turns you on? When you see somebody take off their shirt or strip down to their shorts or get in a swimsuit, what do you like? Do not hold yourself back by saying, oh, but I couldn't have that. Or, oh, that's trivial. Or I'm being shallow. Those are the fear voices because you didn't want to be judged in the same way that you judge other people. But what I'm asking you to do is be honest. If you could put on this list the things that you really want, and God was going to say, okay, if you listed everything, here's a button. You push that button, you can have him, you can have her. What did you really want? You don't want to say, later on, God, I wish I'd said this. I wish I'd said that. A perfect example of that is a woman I knew who actually taught about relationships and sexuality, but she was not in any kind of a lasting relationship. And I told her the thing about the list, and she said, oh, Steve, that doesn't work. I tried that. And I listed this, and this. And, I'm still not getting into relationships with people that last. And so I said, I looked at a list. I said, did you list that you wanted the person to be capable of a long-term relationship? And she just stopped and thought, it was like, no, she hadn't. She'd listed, the passion, the intelligence, the attractiveness, and all that stuff, but she'd forgotten to list that she wanted to be a person who could actually have a relationship and was available for one. Oops. So you list everything about them physically, their energy, their aliveness, their health. Then you go to their emotions. Healthy human emotions, self-love, the capacity to deal with their anger and fear in a healthy way. Someone who loves themselves enough to have self-respect, enough to demand the best from themselves, because you want a partner who will demand the best from you, who will push you. I can promise you that every single day with Tananarive, my sense is, I want to be a better man. I want to be a man who can be a proper partner to a woman as magnificent as this. I have to bring my A game every single day, or I am not worthy of the angel that God brought into my life. I'm just not. But if I bring it everything, because she brings it everything that she's got. She brings everything she's got to this marriage, to her life, to her family. A lioness needs a lion. It's as simple as that. And in terms of the headspace, that's frankly their intelligence, their success, their creativity, and then money. Shall we be honest about it? Money. And this is such a key thing. Money is the way the adult world works. The child world is a world of passion and creativity and dancing in the living room, when you're 8 years old, while your cousins and aunts and uncles applaud and say, what a clever kid. But out in the adult world, we don't survive by hugs and kisses and applause. We survive with money. That is hunting and gathering in this world. We'll talk about that. But how much success do you want? What kind of emotional health and availability do you want? What kind of body do you want? Be honest, write it down. Okay. Now, the step of allies and powers. This is where you're really going to need that 5-minute miracle, because this is going to be very confrontational. You have to look at your circle of people, friends, relations, and find the courage to sit them down, and without any agenda, without any, you're not playing any games. You want to know what they're looking for in a partner. Then you have to have a blisteringly honest evaluation of yourself. If you took a look at all the different categories that you wanted with somebody, and you wrote down there what you wanted and what on a scale of 1 to 10, what you wanted, you then have to measure yourself in those exact same categories. Where are you in each of the major arenas? You subtract, and it will almost always be subtraction, what you are from what they said, and what you have left is the gap that you have to cross in order to be the person that you really wanted to be before life kicked the hell out of you, before life told you you couldn't, you shouldn't, you mustn't, told you to play small. What did your heart really want to be? When you were a kid, what did you look out at the world and say, I want that. I want to dance in the sun, and I want to go here, and I want to do that. I want to be this. And then people started telling you, you can't be that. I can tell you that if you look at what you are deeply attracted to, sexually attracted to, romantically attracted to, it's going to be, assume if you're heterosexual, it's going to be a gender doppelganger. It's going to be the equivalent of you flipped for gender in many ways, either equals or composite or complementary. Because this is one of the things that is true in the 20th century. This was, and before, this was mostly what I call the beauty power axis. The beauty power axis is that a man would exchange a certain amount of beauty, of power, for a certain amount of beauty. This is why you get supermodels, marrying fat millionaires, okay? In the 21st century, and to a certain degree in the gay community, it's more even Steven. It's more, women are holding both beauty and power. So they get to demand both beauty and power from their men. You can have, in that sense, what you can bring. What are you actually bringing in terms of emotional health, physical attractiveness, and career dynamics? Whatever you want, that's it. What that person wants is what you wanted to be. So the trick of the soulmate process, the lover's journey, is that you're not trying to mate some particular person. You're not trying to attract a particular person. What you're doing is you're finding out who you wanted to be, because if you are that person, you will be happy. And you're going to be able to move through life happy. It doesn't matter whether that person shows up or not. There's this odd thing that it seems to be unfair in life. You ever notice that when you don't have a job, you can't get a job until you've got a job, and then suddenly people start offering you jobs? When you're broke, you can't get a loan until you're not broke, and then all of a sudden the bank is sending you, loan applications. You're pre-approved.
Facts.
When you're alone and lonely, you can't find anyone to be attracted to you until you got a partner, and then all of a sudden people come sniffing around. There's a line in a movie called Broadcast News where this guy says, wouldn't it be great if needy were a turn on? Guess what? It's not. Needy is not a turn on. But as you claim more of your life, you gain what I can only call energetic mass. It's like gravity. Gravity isn't like magnetism. It's not pulling something toward it. It's a distortion of space-time. You warping space-time out of truth. And things then will kind of roll into it. When you are desperate for a relationship, you are giving your power away to the world. When you're desperate for, well, in Hollywood, man, if you're desperate for a job, you ain't gonna get it. What they want is somebody walks into that room with confidence. It's like, I don't need you, but we could have some fun together. When you have that attitude, you're the most attractive person in the room, because what everybody wants is to have that genuine confidence, that genuine sense of, I'm a complete human being. I love life, and it doesn't mean you think you're better than somebody else, because a really complete human being, what they're probably going to want to know is, who are you? Tell me about your life. What are you experiencing? And they'll sit back and they'll listen to what it is you have to say. They're genuinely interested. They're complete. They don't need your approval. They're fascinated by your journey. So your task is to become the kind of person who is, you're actually fulfilling your childhood dreams. You're actually moving forward in your life. You're happy who you are, but you're interested in meeting people. That's interesting too. That person is going to distort the space around them. And that is the person who's going to attract the kind of people that we're talking about here. So before I go any further, just, there's so much more, but Nalina, any questions and stuff coming up?
Oh, they are just saying they're trying to figure out to make sure that they can see you clearly. But it was Nia Kearney said, when the lover is ready, the beloved will appear. Work on and love yourself. So there are many people who are just loving this exchange. Deirdre said, I can feel Stephen's love for his wife. It is so refreshing. Those are amazing things. And people are just agreeing with you in the chat. There's not
Fantastic.
There's comments.
If we can create a space where we can be honest with each other, just here, you don't have to share that honesty with other people. You don't have to tell other people your weaknesses, because there are predators in the world, no question. So one of the first things you have to do is to love yourself enough to be willing to fight for yourself, to be willing to fight for that little child inside you. The job of the child inside you is to play in the sunshine and have fun and dance and be creative. And that's where all your aliveness and creativity comes from. It's the job of the adult part of you to protect that child. It's like to build a safe space for that child to play in, and to not let other children or adults into that space unless they're willing to play safely with your child. So in that sense, in terms of a psychological discipline called transactional analysis, you're looking for another person with a child self and a healthy adult self, and your adults will stand at the gates of your playground while your children are on the playground playing together. But first, there's the interview process. It's like, are you going to be healthy for me? And if not, my child can play fine by herself. I will play with my child. That aliveness you're looking for inside you will come when it becomes 100% convinced that the adult part of you will fight to the death to protect you. So you're looking for that lioness part of you. Will a lioness let somebody mess with her cub? I think not. And the cub knows it. The cub knows it. So when you have that kind of fierceness for yourself, you've got it. And if you don't have it, then there's work to do. Someone in the world somehow cut you off from your instincts. The world did that to you, and the process of reconnecting with your heart, of reconnecting with your commitment, will be critical. Like I said, the first step is to fall in love with you. Fall in love with that little girl inside you, that little boy inside you, if you're a guy, who started this journey. That child is so precious and sweet. There's nothing like being true to yourself, loving yourself. That person, if you love yourself, you then have something precious to give other people. If you don't love your body, your heart, and your mind, you will give everything you have in relationships and never to ask for anything in return, and you'll fall into the hands of predators. But if you know that your heart is precious, your body is precious, your mind is precious, then you will demand that people treat you with respect. That the gift of your body, your heart, your mind is godlike. This is all you are. This is all you have. If you give everything to someone, you have the right to demand everything in return. Every day, you can say, this is who I am. You put your cards on the table. See, that's what I did with a woman with whom I had not developed the rapport. We were not on the same level. We weren't meant for each other. I put all my cards on the table, and she said, ugh, this isn't right, because in her world, a guy who does that was playing games. What I needed was a woman who would get who it is that I am. And I found it. So step 3 is you ask, you find the right person or people to ask. Step 4 is you subtract who you are from what they say. What remains is the gap. And that is the territory that you have to travel. That's the territory of your life. And you're not doing it to find a partner. You're doing it to be yourself. And in the process of doing it, you will find a partner. There in yoga, they talk about how the siddhis, SIDDHI, the powers, things like precognition and teleportation, stuff like, the stuff that the magic stuff they say, will come from answering the question, who am I? And staying on the spiritual path. You don't seek the powers. If you seek the powers, that's like a writer trying to be a bestseller as opposed to trying to write the best they can. Because if you write the best you can, and then you get a best-selling book, and you move to a different place, and people who like that last book say, if you do more of this, I'll buy it again. So you literally go backwards, trying to do again what you did back then. What you did back then was honest because that's who you were. But if you move on and you're now turning your back on where you are in life in order to try to get money, well, frankly, you're selling yourself, in the worst way possible. That little boy, that little girl inside you wants to dance and say, this is the now. This is who I am now. If you say, no, give me what you did last year, you're prostituting your heart. When you change yourself, twist yourself, try to get the results from the outside world rather than explore yourself in a way that is in alignment with the Tao, in alignment with nature, in alignment with God, in alignment with your heart. When you do that, the primary reward is owning yourself, loving yourself. Then the next reward is finding a person to share your journey with. First, love yourself. First, be in alignment with yourself. Then find the person to share your journey with. Okay. So the beauty power axis is very painful for people because we'd all like to believe that what it is that we are in our hearts and our minds are worth the world, and it's hard for us to realize, I had to realize there are women I could not attract. And Tananarive will say honestly, there are guys that she could not attract. The energy they're pumping, the circles they're moving in, the offers they're getting, they blind you. These people would not see her. These women would not see me. And to a certain degree, even if they did, the pace that they're moving at, the values they have, the things that they're doing, unless I share those values and I'm heading in the same direction, I would have to either rip myself out of my life to be her partner, or she'd have to rip herself out of her life to be mine. No, when I saw an absolutely wonderful lady who's heading in a slightly different direction at a different speed, my attitude is go with God, have a wonderful life. I hope you find someone who can share that with you. It's not going to be me. I have to find someone who's moving at my pace, in my direction, using my values. The truth is that we are attracted to people at our level and above. Oh yeah, we're definitely attracted to people better than us or more integrated than us. And what we attract is people at our level and below. There is this group of men called incels, involuntary celibates. They've lost their sense of what this game is, what the mating game is, one of the most basic things about mammalian behavior, let alone primate behavior, let alone human behavior. They don't understand. They can only attract what they are. And most of them, the ones living in mommy's basement, they don't even get the fact that they want a supermodel to be attracted to them and they ain't got no money. I don't think so. Either you balance their power with your beauty, or you both bring the same amount to the table. One of those two things. And if you are attracted to people who seem to be above the level that you got one of two choices. You either step up your game or you change your standards. But what you do not do is go to a woman or a man and say, I want you to sell yourself cheap. I want you to take me despite the fact that I'm not on your level. No. You either raise your level or let them go with God and find their destiny. You love whatever level you're at. If you deeply love yourself, then you will know that you have done the best you could with the resources you have, as all human beings do. And if you can laugh and realize, I've done the best I could with what I had, you will be able to accept and love another human being who's doing the best that they can with approximately the same resources. The two of you will see through the game of money and makeup and beauty and say, oh, what this is really about is souls having a human experience. We can measure certain aspects of that experience and things like, how much do you weigh? How much money do you make? This. But what it really is about is two souls. And to the degree that you are willing to look through the veil and to pierce that illusion, you will attract someone else at that same level of maturity. So no matter what, if you're not horribly smart, you're not terribly beautiful, if the thing you do in life doesn't make a lot of money, if you have some health issues, if you genuinely can feel your soul, you will genuinely be able to be attracted to somebody else with the same limitations. Now, here's the trick. If you're genuinely there, you may find yourself attracted to or attracting someone who on one level seems to have more than you've got, because what you are bringing to the table then is a level of spiritual depth, a level of emotional maturity that they might really need. You could find somebody with a lot of beauty who finds themselves making a lot of money, and it's like, but they're surrounded and they're not horribly mature. They're good people, but they're surrounded by people who are picking at them. And if you can make the right connection with that person, you can be their anchor in the world. And so in that sense, if you're willing to look at what the heart is, and you're genuinely doing the best you can with those other arenas, you might be surprised at what you can attract. And other people be looking and say, I don't understand how that relationship works. But you and your beloved will understand. And what goes on behind closed doors is all that matters. It doesn't matter if the rest of the world understands it. But it is important for you not to try to cheat this. You can't cheat this. But if you go deep into the question, who am I? Who am I really? What have I really wanted? How have I really been? What have I really done? Why am I where I am? If you're willing to ask yourself those hard questions, you'll start becoming an extraordinary person, and a person who is capable of attracting an extraordinary soul. So remember, the lover's journey is not an attempt to attract some specific person. It is about being the person you would have been had life not knocked you down so often. That person is happy whether or not they have a partner. And it is that person who can attract the mate of your dreams. Before I go any further, comments, questions, requests?
I just see here that someone has a virtual high five to Steve, and that comes from Mary.
Hey, thank you, Mary. Boom.
And Deirdre said, wow, learn to fight for myself as an adult. Oh my God.
Yeah, you visualize the child, and you put the child behind you. You are now the adult standing between you and that child. And you think about how hard you would fight to protect your niece, your nephew, your own son or daughter if they were helpless. That is how hard I want you to fight for your dreams, for your heart. That person, that crazed lioness, is capable of attracting the lion that you're looking for, because what he wants to know is when he's not home, are his cubs safe? What man wants a woman to be weak? For God's sake, I want the strongest woman I'm capable of attracting. If I get knocked down, I want her over me, to protecting me. If there's something happens to me, I want her protecting my son. I just, the two of us can build, well, what Tananarive and I saw, an empire together. That's what you need. You need a partner.
Michelle G says, will you explain the gap again?
Okay.
Is it my work or is it the wrong person?
No, it is, you talk with the person. It's your work. It's your work. If you don't do that work, you'll get the wrong person. It is when you are on the path to being the person you want to be. It's like that story I told, that what the lady that I had been attracted to told me was that she needed me to have less fat on my body, and she needed somebody with more of a spiritual base. So I realized that the gap was, oh my God, I needed to lose 20 pounds. Oh my God, I needed to have a deeper spiritual base. The behaviors that would produce those things was more dietary control and more running and more meditating. So by starting to take on the behaviors that lead to the goal, I was stepping off the path of self-pity and depression onto the path of power. As soon as I did that, I was able to ask myself questions I could not ask as long as I was feeling poor little me. I was able to say, well, what's wrong here? I was able to then start analyzing, developing a theory about what human relationships were that was contrary to what the public said. I said, oh my God, and then perform the experiments necessary to test my theory. But as long as I was in poor little me, I wanted comforting lies. I am alone because I'm a man of honor and I moved away from California with my family and that woman did this. No, 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 I chose her. I chose her. If I don't take responsibility for what happened, if I don't take responsibility for that, I cannot prevent it from happening again. As long as I'm not taking responsibility, I'm saying the world is happening to me. But as soon as you stand up and say, if it's to be, it's up to me, I will take responsibility. Responsibility is the ability to respond. That takes courage. So we have to go back to the 5-minute miracle. Can you deal with your fear? Can you deal with your stress? Can you take responsibility? Can you forgive yourself? Who is it that would be the perfect partner for your perfect partner? That's the person you really wanted to be.
She says, this is relearning all that you thought you knew. And she also says, so it's not about getting the other person you're asking. It's about understanding what you need to do for yourself.
Yes, 100%. It has nothing to do with getting that person. Nothing, nothing, nothing. This is not a game. You're not playing games. This is not a pickup line. Okay, this is trying to gather information. And if you don't have a person, if you can't find anybody, or if you're just too shy, you just can't move it, then you could start by looking at the lives of people who are loving grandparents, who are still in love and have been in love long enough to have grandchildren. You read their biographies. You study what they say. You look at the person they found themselves with. How did they meet that person? And you'll start getting a sense of, well, what were they looking for? What are they attracted to? But the best thing is to actually sit down with someone and ask, but it is not about them. That will not work. That is a game. And this is all about being blisteringly honest. For once in your life, for God's sake, admit what you want. Admit that you're scared. Admit that you want love and passion and connection, and then have the courage to step forward. I'm going to create that in my life. I'm going to create my stories, my art. I'm going to treat myself well. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to be happy, because isn't the person that you're looking for someone who is happy and healthy on their own, that they're not going to be clawing and clinging to you like a drowning swimmer? No, you want somebody who's already a complete human being, who looks at you and says, wow, we can do this together. If you try to play a game to get somebody, I'm going to turn myself into what this person wants, you're automatically doing exactly what the yogic sciences say do not do. You're trying to get the goodies as opposed to trying to uncover the goodies that are already inside you. Everything you're looking for is already inside you. Find that, and the rest of it just starts happening. Okay?
All right. And William Cooper, he's
Yes.
also an author as well with Simon & Schuster.
Hey, William, how you doing?
He said, I love what Steve said about self-accountability. Self-accountability. And Dory Walker said, yes, own our choices and actions, forgive yourself, and move on.
Absolutely. And one of the things that happens here, if you really get this, is you get the ability to forgive other people. Forgiving someone does not mean forgetting what they did. Forgiving someone does not mean forgetting what they did. It does not mean giving them another chance to hurt you. It means taking responsibility for your part of it. I created this, I chose this, or I will take responsibility to make sure this never happens again. They were doing the best they could with their resources. When you can look deeply into yourself at all the bad stuff you've done over the course of your life, the non-optimal stuff, the times you've sold yourself out, the times when you were dishonest to yourself, then you start seeing that if the meaning of life is to seek joy, and one of the primary joys in life is the peace that we experience in the womb, that sense of being loved and held and cuddled, without which any child dies. All of us were loved at some point in our lives. Children who are never loved die. It's called failure to thrive. At some point, every single one of us was protected and loved, but that changed along the way. If you can go back to that, if you can commit yourself to give yourself that, you'll realize that anyone whoever hurts other people, the cheaters, the liars, the con artists, these are people who don't have that sense of loving themselves. They don't have that sense because that sense of connection to someone who really loves you is more precious than all the rest of the world combined. And connecting to yourself is even more precious than that. When you see the people who you say, you know, these are the monsters of the world, these are horribly wounded people. They're dangerous. You know, I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that you drop your guard. Now, you got to keep your guard up, and you stay away from those people, and you learn to recognize those people by getting in contact with your instincts. Remember, I said belly brain is instincts, heart is your emotions, your head is your intuition. When you get in touch with your instincts, that's that animal survival drive. I will survive, I will thrive. But mating is always also in there. So those are the basic things that you need. Let me move on, if you don't mind, with your kind indulgence.
Of course.
All right. The next step is the dark night of the soul. And this is when you realize that there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be. This can be painful to actually admit, oh my God, I'm not who I need to be. I need to grow. I need to heal. I need to be better, because what I'm attracted to is somebody who's more than that, and I'm not willing to settle. And I would ask you to consider something that a lady said to me once. Wherever you are in life, whatever you're doing, some part of you defines your current status as success. If you can face this part, ask it what it is trying to accomplish for you, what it is trying to do with you, and then find a healthier way to satisfy its needs, you can begin that process of integration and growth. You have to commit to having a life of love and passion, even if you are alone. You have to not be afraid of being alone. Being alone does not mean being lonely. When you get that and you love your own company, then you are ready to bring another person into your life. The way through the dark night of the soul is the leap of faith. And the leap of faith is always faith in one of three things: faith in yourself, faith in your companions, or faith in a higher power. I choose to believe that God would not have given me the urge to find a partner unless I had within me the capacity to make that true. So you take the leap of faith and you head in the direction of your bliss. You increase your amplitude. So for me, it'd be like writing and going to writing conferences and appearing on podcasts. I'm putting myself out there. I'm being who it is that I am. I'm advertising my brand just by pumping up my energy and being in the world. I'm happy. I'm a happy person. That is attractive. You conduct your life according to some standard of ethics. Now, the ones that I like the Sufi pattern of the three gates. For every action and every word, is it kind? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? In other words, is it honest? Is it loving? Is it efficient and effective? Because I want someone who is honest, who is loving, and who is creating a life. So these three filters work for me. I suggest you find patterns that work for you. And by the way, about everything I'm talking about here, I expect you to absorb what is useful and throw away the rest. You're all adults here. Figure out what it is that's going to work for you. All right. This is the moment I have been looking for. I'm about to introduce, yes, go ahead.
Wait, a couple of things. Some great, Lucille Freeman says, some great wisdom, Stephen. We appreciate your honesty and all that you're sharing. Thank you. There's a couple of questions, but I want to give the kudos. Somebody texted me. I'm getting text on my phone from Unique Hiram. She's also an author. Stephen Barnes is dropping some priceless gems. And then she, put all the gem emojis. But here's a question from Mary. Can you get too comfortable being alone? And then William Cooper was about to say, learning to be alone without being lonely for a man is an incredible feeling. So there's two things that are dropped in the chat. Mary says, can you get too comfortable being alone?
Yes. And what's important to remember is that you start, in some ways, you have then stepped off a path. We are both genetically and emotionally programmed to find partners. That's, like I said, every single person here is descended from somebody who found a partner, at least, for a few minutes. So I think that too comfortable being alone can turn into I'm afraid to be vulnerable to somebody else. To be honest with yourself, to be able to say, I want sex. I want partnership. I want laughter. I want love. I want kisses and hugs. I want someone to wake up with in the morning and go to bed with at night. I'm totally willing to be alone. I'm fine by myself, but I could be even more with another person. I can walk by myself, but it would be so nice to have someone to walk with. I just admitted, so I'm totally okay by myself. And I would be no matter what. And I love being married. I love being married to Tananarive Due, who I'm about to introduce as soon as I get the permission.
One last thing at the end, because I know you want to move forward. Michelle would like you to show the step. Could you show step 6 again?
Let's see. Let me see if I can do that. Step 6. Once you have the gap between where you are and where you need to be, there's that expression, how do you eat an elephant? One forkful at a time. You divide the gap up into small enough bites that every day you can just take one more bite. I'm going to write a little bit on a story. I'm going to start walking again. I'm going to spend a few minutes meditating today. I'm going to start getting back out into the world, and I'm going to call a friend every day and just talk. I'm going to get that connection. Whatever it is that is heading you in the direction of being the person you need to be, I'm going to research. I'm going to model. I'm going to take additional steps. I'm going to get into the world. I'm going to increase my amplitude and my intensity so that I'm shining like a light. Someone will see that light. It's like a bird singing its song in the forest. That's how its mate hears them. If you don't let people know who you are, how are they going to know where you are and what you are? So it's you every day, you're figuring, how am I taking one step today? There's a guy that I really like named Brendan Burchard, who every day he asks himself, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Every single day. So you do something every day. Did I share? Did I help someone? Did I grow? Did I use my body? Did I get a little bit closer touch with my body? Did I move my career forward? Did I dance? Did I have fun? Did I make the little kid inside me happy? Whatever standards you have, whatever it is you're going to do, up sluggard, waste not life. There'll be rest enough in the grave. Benjamin Franklin said that a long time ago. I could not agree with him more. All right. So the last step, or this not the last step, but the last step before we change the context a little bit, is that if you do this, what you're looking for is the tribe of people who are heading toward the same direction you're going in, have the same values you have, traveling at about your speed. And out of those people, you're looking for the one whose green light is on, like a taxi. Who is open for a relationship? When you're in touch with your instinct and you love yourself and your heart is open and you start developing that calculating mind, you'll start being able to recognize the people who are on your path and who aren't. And then, like I said, all you need is someone who's ready to mate. I mean, frankly, and you guys look at each other and say, you ready? Yeah. You ready? Yeah. And you feel that heat and it's like, boom. And all the good stuff kicks in there. And you found it. It's not that difficult, but it does require an unusual level of honesty and clarity to both love yourself and admit that you want another person, that you understand the history of life on this planet, especially that male-female thing, if that's what you're looking for. If you're gay, then it would be two human beings, both of whom have that balance, probably. Or it's going to be more that way, but you're still looking for someone who is traveling in your direction at your speed, who can complement you and support you. I was blessed enough to find that person. I will tell the rest of that story after I have done what I'm about to do right now, and that I've looked forward to doing. And what do you need? Hold on for just a second here. I'm going to stop the sharing here for a moment. And Tananarive, step in.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing, sweetheart?
Good.
This is my baby. So,
Oh, Oh my
So
God. Fangirl here, fangirling. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
so I was just talking, we talked about my journey up until the time that I got on my knees and I said I was willing to wait the rest of my life if I had to find what I was looking for. Why don't you talk about your journey a little bit so that we're kind of up to date on how this all happened?
Sure. Let me move the camp over a little bit.
Yes,
So,
you do that.
hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I've been listening to bits and pieces of this, and of course, Steve and I have been talking about this course for a while because we did go on surprisingly similar journeys to meeting each other. He just talked about the green light, the light being on. The thing I was attracted to probably 2 years before I met Steve was the light being off. I wanted a challenge. If you were a little emotionally distant, or if I could tell you could like me, but you were too shy to say so, or in some cases too gay, you know, like there was something intriguing, but you were gay. It was like, so a lot of the dating I did before I met Steve was men I would call emotionally unavailable. And I'm going to pin this on childhood. You know, I love my father. He's still alive. He's 87 years old, but he lived very much in his head and behind closed doors and worked long hours. And over the years, even though he was there in the house, I realized as an adult with therapy that that had been an emotionally distant relationship. And as happens a lot of the time when we get to be adults, is we are attracted to those dynamics that we replay from childhood. So it was that guy who liked me kind of, but couldn't commit, or I love you, but I'm not in love with you, whatever it was, that was the person. So if I had not done my work before meeting Steve, his green light, which was clear, he, like when we met at Clark Atlanta University, did you show them a little video?
Yes, I did.
When we met at Clark Atlanta University, the way he looked at me, his green light was like bing, 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 bing. And there was a time that would have scared the hell out of me. I would have been like, whoa, back off, dude. Did we just met kind of thing, that energy. So I needed to feel worthy of that look. I needed to feel like I was looking for someone who had their green light on instead of being repelled by someone with their green light on, right? I remember interviewing Terry McMillan during this time. Her book, Waiting to Exhale, came out in the 90s. And when I interviewed her, she was responding to people sort of saying, wasn't this sort of a negative depiction of Black men? She said, well, look at the women, look at the choices they're making. What about their choices? You know, they're choosing these men. So that was it. I didn't know how to choose. And in order to do that, I mean, for everybody, it'll be a different path. For me, part of that path was therapy. Another important part, now y'all don't want to hear this, but another important part of that path was celibacy. That's right, I said it. Because I did not have high enough standards about the person I was sleeping with. I had set up kind of this imaginary relationship that wasn't a real relationship. I had platonic friends where there was no sexual chemistry, but we got along great and we could spend a lot of time together. I had sex buddies, you know, you could pick up a phone and get that kind of intimacy, but that was it. There was no expectation for anything else. And then I had my impossible crush, the person I wanted both of those things with, both the friendship and the sexual relationship, but couldn't have those things and just kind of pining for that person. So between those three people, I was fooling myself into feeling like I was in a relationship. And I needed to break out of that. And celibacy was an important piece of that because I set up a standard that, believe me, if I had this standard starting at the beginning of my sexual life, I would have had far fewer partners. The standard is this: I'm only going to have sex with someone who loves me and I'm in love with them. I'm only going to have some sex with someone who loves me and I'm in love with them. And I know some of y'all are thinking, well, how do you know if you love someone? If you're not hitting it, then you don't know if you have that chemistry. Look, that's for y'all to work out. I'm just telling you, I'm just telling you that by creating that standard, and some of you may not be as attracted to emotionally unavailable people, so you may not need that.
They'll have other issues.
That standard,
Yeah.
right? So, but for me, that was the one. It was the one knowing like how to make that decision. It was like kindergarten, right? And as soon as I passed the test, I was dating someone right before I was invited to Clark Atlanta. It was the last relationship, if you can call it that, I had before I met Steve. And it was the typical thing where you go out, there's some chemistry, there's, you know, some touching and some kissing. And of course you're expecting it to become, he's expecting it to become sexual. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready yet. And then I got the speech that he wanted to see other people, which was fine. I mean, it hurt for like 5 seconds. Grief is grief. Even if someone isn't as deeply embedded inside of your heart as like a true partner, the emotion of grief feels like grief. I think the difference is it lasts longer and shorter periods of time, depending on how deep the relationship was. So I felt like a little pinch of grief. 2 days later, I met this man. It was as if I had had a test. I had had a test and I passed it. And the other, let me tell the psychic story.
Go
too.
for it.
There,
Anything you want to say, sweetheart. They're hanging on your every word.
So what's interesting about the fact that I met Steve at Clark Atlanta University that same day I met Octavia Butler and her mentor, Samuel R. Delaney and Jewel Gomez, all these giants in the field that I was just entering as a young writer, is that 5 years before any of this, I was a reporter for the Miami Herald, still single, still pining, still making terrible choices, still attracted to people who weren't attracted to me, not realizing that I needed to fix what was in the mirror first and all this sort of thing. And I came across a woman, a colleague of mine at the Miami Herald, thought was a real deal psychic. Now, I'm not big into psychics, but she was just insisting to me, oh, no, she knew the right pronouns to use because my friend was gay. She knew, like, she knew things she shouldn't know. So I went to this woman's house and she never charged. She didn't feel like she should charge for her gift. And I asked her, where is he? That was my whole purpose in being there, was where is he? I'm looking for my soulmate. Where is he? And she thought, and she said, I see something, but not yet. And you know, getting nowhere typically with my life. And then she lit up and she said, but you want to be a writer. Now, granted, I was a newspaper reporter. So, okay, most newspaper reporters actually also want to be novelists or write books. So I was thinking, yeah, lady, you're playing me. But yeah, I want to be a writer. She says, you're going to write a book. I was more than halfway through my first novel, The Between. I hadn't told her that. But yeah, I was writing a book. Okay, so she got me on that one. And she said she saw it wrapped in a gold ribbon. She said, you're going to be like, and she was struggling for the name. And finally we came up to Maya Angelou. Look, this is what she said. Okay, I'm not saying. She said, you're going to be like Maya Angelou. And I'm like, okay, yeah, lady. But what about the guy? I just thought she was pumping me up. And she said, you become who you're supposed to become. That's when you'll meet your man. And when I tell you 5 years later, on the basis of that book I was writing, when I was invited to my very first Black speculative conference, that's when I met Steve.
So let me go back into my story for a moment. So I was on my knees and I said, you know, God, I understand what the game is now and I don't want it. I want a partner and I'm willing to wait forever if that's what I need to do to find her. And the next morning, I'm coming out of my room, and coming out of the room right next to me is this cute young girl who says, excuse me, are you Steve Barnes? And I said, yes. And she said, well, are you going to breakfast? I said, yeah. I said, you know, can we have breakfast together? I said, sure. So, you know, I sat there, you know, with her, and I knew that she was a speaker at the conference, and I had no familiarity with her work. So I had no idea about the quality of her work, but I was polite.
But I had seen his outer, as you saw in the video, I had already seen his Outer Limits episode. So
you had an advantage over me.
I had an advantage. I thought you were a brilliant writer. But again, you probably already said, I wasn't even thinking romance. I was thinking, oh, maybe you could be a mentor and teach me about TV.
And that's the honest truth, is that's what, when we went to a book signing, that was the first time I looked at a copy of her first novel, The Between. And I realized that I'd been in the field for 15 years or longer. And she was already better than me at creating a realistic depiction of the world as it is. It was called mimetic writing. I looked at this, it was like, oh my God, she's really skilled. She's really got it. And so I thought to myself, I could be of help to her. You know, I could take the knowledge that I had from already having been in the field and I could give that to her. She could stand on my shoulders. I wanted to adopt her like a little sister.
Right.
That is the honest truth. We were in her room that night watching Seinfeld on television, and she was sitting on one bed, I was sitting on the other. I was very careful my body language. I did not want her to think I was, you know, trying to hit on her, because that would interfere with my ability to help her. I did not want any impropriety at all. Then on the, you know, we went out to dinner that night and we did some line dancing, was having some fun. So I did notice that she moved like a healthy animal, which was, you know, nice to see. But then the last day that we were there, she gave a speech about how she got Stephen King to give her a cover blurb for her novel, My Soul to Keep. Basically, she used her position as a relationship columnist for the Miami Herald. Dave Barry was the humor columnist for the Miami Herald. Dave Barry played in a rock band with Stephen King, the Rock Bottom Remainders. They travel on to book shows and put on shows. Tananarive played keyboards. She approached Dave Barry and said, you know, I play keyboards. I'd love to, you know, my book's coming out.
I just told him that I dreamed of one day playing in the band. You know, I didn't have the nerve to try to invite myself, but you know, he said, well, we do have an opening in that Elvis number. Do you know Jailhouse Rock? I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. So that's how I ended up on the stage, met Stephen King.
Yeah. And so she got, you know, she was wearing her little leather mini skirt, aerobicized to perfection. I was sure that was eye catching. And got to know Stephen King with his guard down. Asked him whether or not, you know, told him about her writing and asked him if he would take a look at her book and possibly give her a blurb. He looked at the book. He gave her a blurb. And that was how it happened. I sat in the audience and I said, wow, she did a 3-wall bank shot on that guy. She used this position to get into this position, to get into this position. So she created an opportunity for which she was ready to walk through that door. I said, she's really smart. And in the next moment, almost as if noticing how smart she was, gave me permission to open my eyes. My next thought was, and she's really cute too. and I felt this chill go up my spine from belly brain to heart center to head center. All 3 centers of me aligned, and the universe opened and I saw my future. I saw the possibilities. I said, oh my God, Steve, you're in trouble. I had never felt anything like that before in my life.
I had to have the right person, baby. That's all.
And I knew that she was leaving. We were leaving the next day.
Yeah, it was like a 3-day conference. And I had seen him speak, by the way. And you can see, I mean, it's this, but he was standing on a stage and it just seemed like his entire aura was glowing.
Well, William Cooper says, you sapiosexual, you Steve. Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it. But let me tell you something. When I said she moved like a healthy animal, that was definitely in the mix, buddy. You know, it's like, you know, the animal self, the emotional self, and the intellectual self, all 3. That's what you want, all 3. So
and then he stole somebody's
no. My story. Stop. Bad dog, no biscuit. I looked around the room. I said, I've got to get her attention. And she lives in Miami. I live in Washington State.
Yeah,
we
that's
could
pretty far.
We could not have lived further from each other in the continent of the United States. And I said, I got to get her attention. So I looked around the room, and the woman sitting 2 seats away from me had a baby on her lap. And I looked at her and I said, excuse me, ma'am, can I borrow your baby?
Oh my God.
And she said, what? I said, I don't want to leave the room. I just really, really love babies. And I would like to, I miss mine. I would like to play with your baby, if that's okay with you. Now, she knew me because I've been at the conference, I've been presenting. So she might have thought I was a little weird, but not too weird, I guess. And she said, okay. So I took her baby. Tananarive was down off the stage. She was signing autographs for a crowd. And I got down on the floor in front of her and started playing with the baby.
And I'm like,
If if I had not been honestly saying to her in the most compressed way possible, please stop, look at me, give me a chance. If you feel what it is that I feel, if this is real, I will love you all your life. I will, if you want children, we will have children together, and I will do all in my power to protect them, because I love kids.
Yeah, he does.
And I do. In other words, I was being honest.
You're right. If he had taken that baby and was faking out, because his daughter was 11, he could have been done when she was 18. Our son was born when his daughter was 18. So
it was my instinct, my emotion, and my intuition all came together to both recognize her and to find the perfect way of saying to her what was in my heart. Within 24 hours of that, what were we doing?
We were sitting at the airport, Atlanta airport, our heads close together, like, we could build an empire together. We literally said that. I'm not even exaggerating. We really thought and not just meaning financially, obviously we were both feeling that stirring in the heart space. We're both writers. We were probably dreaming that we could put our skills together and collaborate, which we've done, in the Twilight Zone episode.
I would say the one thing, when we said we could build an empire together, the one mistake we made was that I think on some level we thought someone was going to come and bring us a basket of empire. No. We actually had to build it.
Yeah,
and it took us some while to figure that out, but that's what we're doing now.
We're still sanding the walls and
we're actually putting it together. but that was it. We had to be ready. We had to be capable of speaking our truth. That both of us, we were not interested in playing games anymore. We stopped because we could have been ships passing in the night.
We could have been. And, my mother was nervous, based on my choices previously. She had no confidence when I came home all in love after a weekend. I mean, come on, it sounds crazy, really, when you think about it. And I didn't really believe in love at first sight. I had written a column for the Miami Herald. I wrote a dating column where I was talking to people who thought they had fallen in love at first sight. And I was like, this sounds like a bunch of crap. But what I realized after meeting Steve is that feeling of love at first sight is really, in a large part, the clarity of knowing what you want, right? So all of the smoke clears, all the fog clears, and the next thing, and when the lover presents himself, that green light was on. The way Steve was playing with that baby, glowing at me, I took my jacket down so he could see my shoulder a little bit. We both had done so much work in preparation for meeting our soulmate that when we met a person who checked all those boxes, not the only person ever, but that person, that who wanted a long-term relationship, who wanted to build a family together, who wanted to share a creative space together. I hadn't even dreamed about being able to share a creative space with a partner. I wouldn't have dared to put that on my list.
Can I talk about what your mom said to me when she met me?
Okay.
Oh
yeah.
So, her mom was a tiger mom. I mean, just insanely protective, just not insanely, but optimally protective.
Yeah. A civil rights activist. Her name was Patricia Stevens Due.
And we met at a restaurant in Miami. So her dad slides in the booth, and Tananarive slides in, and I slide in, and then her mom slides in. Her mom looks at me. First word she ever said to me, leaned across the table and said, "Well, I'm not impressed by you at all." And I looked at her and I said, "It's not your job to be impressed by me. It's your job to protect your daughter." And I said that, and I sat back and I watched her try to pretend I hadn't said the perfect thing.
It was rocky. It was rocky in the beginning. We didn't have a lot of time. I mean, my mom really had no way of understanding all the work I had done, the chemistry we had when we met, that I was not the same person, literally, that I had been in my previous disastrous attempts at relationships. So I couldn't just snap my finger and make her understand. And the fact that I was going to move away to the other side of the country did not help, because she was going to be biased against the relationship if it meant, in her mind, she was losing me.
See, do you realize the amount of faith that Tananarive had to have to be willing to, move away from everything that she knew?
Everything I knew, and to become a stepmom to his 11-year-old daughter. Albany, he was living with your ex-wife, but we lived 10 minutes away. So I was an active
She
stepmother.
didn't know anybody in the area.
It was a very different kind of area than where I'd grown
So
up.
unless I was
Rural
willing,
Washington State, y'all. So,
unless I was willing to do everything, give her everything, and let her know that as soon as Nikki graduates high school, move down to Los Angeles and get into Hollywood. I couldn't play any games. We didn't have time for that. It was just that I was lucky enough that she was ready. Let's move on to the next thing, because we're now in the
close to the
groove.
Q&A period.
And good. All right. So
yay, victory.
She was of my tribe, I was of her tribe, and we had the green light. So we were there. So that's the amazing Tananarive Due, right?
Me.
Right there. Just if it's a little out of sync with things, this is how I see her. It's how I always see her. This is the most beautiful woman in the world to me. She's as close to perfect for me as God could allow possibly. I can't imagine. There isn't anybody in second, third, or fourth place. There's just Tananarive. I got no escape hatch. There's no side door. I'm not looking for anything except, how do I make this better? How do I let her know every day that I love her? How do I be the best man I can be so that she never for a moment regrets the trust that she extended to me? It would break my heart if I ever thought that she didn't get how I feel about her.
Almost 24 years in, honey. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
There's a question on the floor.
Yeah.
Toss it to you. Do you think this is from Michelle G. Do you think there can be more than one soulmate where there is a green light?
Absolutely. And I think I'm in here someplace very close. I addressed that completely. There we go. I believe that everyone is no more than 1 degree of separation away from someone who could be their soulmate. The average American knows 600 people. And each of those 600 people knows 600 people. That makes, with it just 1 degree of separation from where you are, 360,000 people. And I would bet that 1 out of every 10,000 people could conceivably be a soulmate to you.
It just so happened that the Clark Atlanta conference was a very small conference. There were only a handful of writers there, and it was one of my very first conferences like that. But had I continued to go to many more conferences where it's narrowing people down according to our interests, we all like the same kind of writing, I would have met someone else. He wouldn't have been Steve. Maybe he wouldn't have been a collaborator, but he might have been someone who could read my work and give me feedback. Yeah, but sure, I could have met another soulmate.
I could have met a woman through the martial arts or through yoga, a school teacher, an editor, and just fallen in love. Someone who we have enough commonality that we can talk that private language. But I got insanely lucky. I can't imagine anybody who's more aligned with what I need than Tananarive. So yes, absolutely, there's more than one soulmate. It would be horribly unfair were that not to be true. What kind of world would it be if there was only one person?
And I think this is especially important for people who've already had a relationship that they did think worked, and for whatever reason it ended, either loss of life sometimes or life circumstances, an impossible move. Some people wouldn't have been willing to pull up stakes and move from one part of the country to another. That's a bridge too far for some people, and that's a difficult decision, but it's a legitimate decision. So that's not to say if that person got away, then that's it for you. You might as well call it a wrap. You're never going to have your soulmate. There is absolutely more than one.
So we've been together for 23 years, and something happened last year. I seek out teachers, and I met a wonderful gentleman named Carl Totten, who was a martial arts master and a a Taoist priest, and a PhD in psychology from Pepperdine University. And he became a mentor of mine. And one of the things he gave me is called the blessing dance. And it's something that Tananarive and I do every morning together. And we want to give this to you because not only can you use it to connect to the person, but you can use it in the mirror to connect with yourself, to love yourself. And once you feel the depth of that connection, you then will be able to know what is real and what is not real. You're just looking for something that feels like that. and you keep your instinct, your emotion, and your intuition all in alignment. So these are the steps of it. You're going to face each other, your right hand over their heart, their right hand over yours, your left hand atop their right hands. We will show you. You gaze deeply into each other's eyes, kind of soft focus, and you take 10 deep, slow breaths
From the
like
diaphragm.
that, from the diaphragm. Then you sing the following words. You are my beloved. I open my heart to you. Then you take 5 more deep breaths, and then you hug for 5 breaths. And now, my sweet lady
We've
wife,
never done this in front of people.
we've never done this in front of people.
So it's a little different.
It's a little different.
But
You are the first to ever be in our circle and see this. I put my hand over her heart. She puts hers over mine. And we breathe. You are my beloved. I open my heart to you.
And then the hug. Yeah, we always do a little kiss at the end, but that's it.
That's the blessing dance. And it's mind-blowing. Once you fall into their eyes and you realize you're looking into the soul, into the child part. I look at her and I think, my God, she trusted me. You know, if there's a gray hair that I see at the corner of my eye, I realize, oh my God, she was a girl when I met her. She gave her girlhood to me. She trusted that this is a sacred journey that we're on. This is not a joke. It's not a game. We don't get to go back. I have to make sure every day is special because we don't get those days back. When you realize, and if you do this with yourself, you modify this. You might need to modify the words or whatever, but understand what these steps are. If you were to do this into the mirror, loving yourself, and if you can say to yourself, my daughter, when she was about 8 years old, actually she was about 7, I had her stand in front of a mirror and say, I like myself. I like myself. And she couldn't do it at first. She had to be given permission to say she liked herself. But when she was able to do that, then I'd have her say, I love myself. And then she began to laugh and giggle, just having made that connection. If you can look into the mirror and see your own divinity, how magnificent you are, how much you have struggled to be the best person you can be at every day of your life, all along the way, and you can love yourself like that, then you will start looking around at people around you and realizing that we are all these divine spirits doing the best we can, and you will see the wounds that people carry, and you will be able to say, oh my God, they're so magnificent. They've been hurt, but they still love. They've been hurt, but they still dance. They still sing, they still have joy, they still move forward. And those who are carrying too much of a burden, who got hit with so much stress that it turned into strain, you'll be able to understand and be kind. But in terms of this, once you deeply love yourself and make contact with that intuition, you'll realize that it is better for you to be alone than to be with someone who does not treat you with the love and respect and passion that you deserve and that your heart is really desiring. It's real. This stuff is real. So we give to you, the first time we've taught this publicly, something that has been a part of our personal ritual. And if you can see how this is the flowering, this is the fruit of all the attitudes and actions that we've been talking about for the last hour and a half in a simple form, I would suggest you start doing this every morning. Do this, tomorrow morning. See how it feels. And if there's any part of you that cannot say honestly to yourself, you are my beloved, I open my heart to you, and see the beauty and the spirit within you. If you can do that, you will then be able to look at a person and say, well, you're nice, but you can't treat me the way I need to be treated. I wish you well, but you're not, this path is not for me.
For those of you who watch Abbott Elementary, Tariq, he's not the one.
That's right. He's
not the one for her. He's nice. He's not the one for her.
Nice isn't enough. It's not your job to heal people. It's not your job to make excuses for people. It's your job to live your life with integrity so that on your deathbed, you look back at your life and know you did it the best you could. And the line between the little child that you were and the ancient man, the ancient woman you're going to be on your deathbed, if you let that child and that person you're going to be on your deathbed, if you meditate and visualize both of them and let them have a conversation, all you have to do is listen, because all you have to do is set your life so that you're operating in alignment with your childhood dreams and your deathbed values, and you've got it. Another way of looking at everything we've been saying is something that it's one of the most powerful things, and if you will apply this to relationships, you can apply it to any goal in your life, but I call it the magic formula, MAGIC. First, you need a model or map of accomplishment. To find people, someone who has accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. Listen to what they say. Empty your cup. Listen to what they say. Try what they say. Throw away anything that you object to. But during the time that you're learning, throw it away. So the first is M, model or map. The second is daily action. When you've got that gap, you need to know what you need to be doing every day to move yourself a little bit further in that direction. And remember, that direction is the direction of greater joy, greater aliveness, greater energy, greater passion every single day. Number 3, G, gratitude. If you aren't grateful for what you already have in life, why in the world should you believe that any good stuff is coming to you? And people will say, I don't have anything to feel grateful for. Really? You got eyes? Yeah. If you went blind, would you be sorry? Yeah. Well, then doesn't it make sense to be grateful now for anything you'd be sorry you lost if you lost it? Every day, I'm grateful for I'm grateful to the people who love me and trust me. I said, my son, Jason, my daughter, Nikki, my beautiful, brilliant wife, Tananarive. And I will say this while I am doing Tai Chi, while I'm moving, I will say this out loud. Every morning, 6 days a week, I will go through the magic formula in a form of affirmations, power affirmation. Maybe we'll do another workshop at some point about creating a morning ritual, because that is one of the most powerful things that I know how to do. The 4th step, the I, is clear intention. In other words, that's a goal. You need to know clearly what you want. Clearly what you want, okay? Because you don't just drive otherwise you'll just drive in a circle until you run out of gas. You'll swim in a circle until you cramp up and drown. You need to know which direction to move in. And the 5th step is you have to have confidence that you can and should have this thing. Now, here's the trick, and I'm boiling this down. This is once again another lifetime of study here. Map times action times gratitude times intention times courage equals success. And it's multiplicative as opposed to additive, because the trick is, in a multiplicative equation, a 0 in any category will give you 0 overall. If you do not have a clear map of action, if you're not taking action every day, I don't care whether it's writing your first book or losing weight or finding a partner or building a business, I don't care what it is. If you don't have a map of what to do, if you're not taking constant action, if you don't feel gratitude for where you are, if you don't have a clear goal, and if you don't have a belief that you can and should do it, you will fail. So make sure you have, on a scale of 0 to 9, make sure you have at least a 1, at least a little bit of an idea of what to do. You're taking at least a little tiny bit of action. You're finding at least a little seed of gratitude. You have a misty sense of your goal, and you have a little confidence. As long as you have at least a little bit in each category, you're at least in the game. Then you pump it up to 9. But if you've got a 0 in any one of these, the link in your chain is broken. So that's where you work. You need to, let me find somebody who's got that relationship. Let me see what action I can take on a daily basis. It's not too much and too confrontational. Let me find just a little bit of gratitude. Let me get some goals that are at least a little clearer than they were before. And let me find some little bit of courage that, there've been things in my life I didn't think I could do it, but I did it anyway. And maybe this is like that. Get at least a 1 in each category. Any questions, comments, or requests before I go on?
Someone said, this is Dory Walker. That's deep. It is hard to be upset with yourself or partner doing this. It is freeing while building a strong bond.
Yes.
It is. It is. And not only that, but I learn about myself. I learn when I'm distracted. I learn when I'm irritated.
Sometimes we're not in a good mood.
That's right. Sometimes I'm irritated because she said something, did something, something's going on, and I'm not happy about that.
But we still do it.
We still do it.
Yeah.
And I listen to that irritation. I think to myself, wait a minute, there's no back door here. Tananarive is the best I could do. If I'm gonna be mad at somebody, be mad at me. We have to find a way back to love. We have to find a way to get back on that horse. And if I look into her eyes and I feel anything except falling in there, then I know that that's the crap that stops me from falling in love with my wife again every single day. Because when it's just me and her, when I can get past the outside world, we're at the center of the storm. The world can be whirling around us, but we are present for each other, and there's nothing there but love.
Awesome. Well, got a few people crying with all of this love going around. William Cooper said, these damn onions, damn the 2 of you. And we've got people on Facebook. People are texting me. It was Marze who was on the line. She pulled out her, what was it, this doll or something. She said, talking about her inner child and reflecting. She said, maybe the lover won't understand that, but she's understanding the assignment of what you're
doing. Do you understand
Good.
that once you've learned the blessing dance, let's say you got a boyfriend, girlfriend, you're thinking about going a little deeper, you might want to try the blessing dance with them. And if they can't look at you and tell you that they're opening their heart to you, this may be a sign. You may want to look at what you're learning.
I mean, they may want to chant instead of singing. Maybe they don't like to sing.
Yeah.
Or, you can obviously make.
But you have to ask yourself, what
changes.
Do you need? What do you really need in order to feel completed in life? Whenever people used to say, Steve, aren't you asking for too much in life? And I just have one statement. When people start saying, well, are you asking for too much? I ask you to answer one question. How long are you going to be dead? Armed with the answer to that question, have the courage to go out and create the life of your dreams. I made you promise at the beginning that we were going to go over mirror magic. That's the blessing dance in the mirror, the soulmate process, the beauty power access, the magic formula, 5-minute miracle, the 3 gates, the 3 sinners, the gap, finding your tribe and recognizing the green light, and of course the blessing dance again. So I want to be absolutely certain that I have kept my word to you to the limit of my ability. Do you have any questions about these things for either one of us?
Anyone who has questions, you can drop it in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to read from Marze Scott. Listening to Stephen Barnes and Tananarive Due on a Zoom about the lover's journey, presented by Nalena Kai and Woodson Creative Studio. And Stephen says to make the child within happy. Not his words verbatim, but certainly what he said. Love yourself and the lover will come. She says, I'm cracking up because most know I'm a giant toddler to begin with. She said, but I'm certainly now making sure my inner child is the happiest she can be. Thank you, Stephen.
Great.
My very great pleasure.
That's great.
It's, I love children so much, especially little girls. I just, and little boys are so different from little girls. All my daughter wanted to know was, did daddy love her? What my son wanted to do is beat the hell out of me every night. It's just like every night, putting me to bed, just jumping all over me. And finally one day I asked him, well, why do you do that? And he just looked at me and he said, that's how boys play. It's like, oh well. So yeah, this stuff, all this is a complicated way, many different ways of looking at the same process that is actually very simple. The mating process, like I said, every chipmunk in the forest knows this stuff without knowing it. What we want to do is to move beyond the distortions, the resentments, the fears. Men are like this, women are like this. How about people are people?
Yeah, some men are this, some women are this. There's no such thing as all men or all women or anything.
But healthy people can find other healthy people.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. That is the theory that I'm offering here. Healthy people can find other healthy people. If you're not finding healthy people, it tells you you've got work to do. It's a diagnostic. Get to work. Get the therapist. Talk to your priest. Get a coach. Meditate, journal, hang out with your friends and have a good cry, and just talk about your heart. Find the people you can speak your truth to. The 3 gates. Is it true? Is it kind? Especially kind to yourself. You've done the best you could. Is it useful? Is it efficient and effective? Is it moving you in the direction that you want to go? I tell my son, all I want to see is 1% improvement every week. If you could improve 1% every day, that'd be just amazing. But 1% per week will get you there. Tiny changes over time will accomplish anything that you want. So, questions, before we move towards our close.
Dory Walker, this was so good. I love the practical advice. Thank you, William Cooper. Exceptional. A blessing to listen to this. And Mary says, this was amazing. It's all about self-love. Love begets love. I don't see a lot of questions. I see a lot of comments of, this is definitely a different approach to love. I mean, you've always said the self-love, but also seeing the results of that self-love, that we attract that which who we are, and we become even better than who we are by being involved with each other. I see that. I've known you guys since Book Expo America. When I came there, we were signing the Casa Negra book, and I got
that's going back.
Yep.
Going way back.
That's it. We're telling you, we're coming as close as we can to being as honest as we have the capacity to be. For this period of time, I don't want your money. This was not about money. You're helping me to understand how the process looks from the outside so that we can create a book. We're going to take the transcript of this talk and turn it into a book that that Nelina is going to help me promote on Amazon, because I'm curious as to what she does. But then that book is going to be the outline for a full-on course that we're creating. So we got a couple more cards. Okay, so if you want to stay in touch with us, we do a weekly podcast that you can find at lifewritingpodcast.com. We're having a lot of fun. It's about the artist's life, the writer's life, and how to do it in a healthy way.
We have a new episode dropping actually Sunday at noon Pacific time, which is called How to Collaborate Without Killing Each Other. So that's another aspect of our relationship in the podcast. We talk about our relationship a lot. Also, if you want to be on the mailing list, it's lifewritingweekly.com. And of course, Steve's blog is Stephen Barnes Life.
And what's your blog?
Tananarive Due writes on WordPress. I don't have it up there, but yeah, I haven't actually.
You should have put it up there.
I haven't done a new post since 2019. So
we're gonna fix it. We're one of the things that we often say to ourselves is that God gave us a miracle, and we don't belong to ourselves. We have to be strong so we can speak the truth to others. Just as we followed the path of teachers and our mentors and her parents, who are just the most amazing parents that I have known. They created 3 fantastic daughters, and I just decided that I want to surrender even more deeply to this marriage, to this love, and let Tananarive teach me more about how to love, how to be married, how to do this. We have the obligation of sharing. Masters in all arenas, they're not only learning all the time and living in the truth, they're also sharing.
You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Tananarive Due. I was going to just throw that up in the chat.
Yes,
that just goes to hosts and panelists.
Okay.
Let me change it. If that's the last panel.
No. Okay, let me see if it's the last panel. I don't know.
Because some people are watching this live on Facebook. And
so they would. So yeah, just catch me on Instagram or Twitter at Tananarive Due. It's my name.
Yeah, take that
all
off.
together.
Okay.
And boom, there I am.
Yes, so everybody take a field trip over to Instagram and make sure you're following her right now. I'm doing that myself.
I think we can stop sharing. Okay, we're gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
big screen.
there's some other sheets, cards, but we've handled it. That this is the process. You admit that you want love in your life. You write out exactly what you want without any compromises.
Writing is an act of magic.
Writing is an act of magic. The compromises that you've made in terms of what you want to love are based on the fear that you cannot have it. And that fear will come out in other arenas of your life too. Your career, your body, your sensuality, how much you can access your creativity. You find people who come as close as possible to what you're looking for. And you sit them down and you ask them honestly, what do you want? If you've chosen properly, what they describe is what you really want. You subtract who you are from what they have described, and what you see is who you would have been if you'd had the courage to step up and just kind of admit, I want everything. During, that Buddha baby energy, earth below, heaven above, no one in the world like me. What happened to that? What happened to that sense that we could be anything? We sell ourselves out. I want you to reclaim that within yourself so that you can then attract the kind of person who isn't settling in their lives. And the two of you can stand together against the storm of life. What happens outside the door has nothing to do with who Tananarive are together. If the rest of the world was giving us millions, but our marriage didn't work, we'd have nothing. We'd have nothing. If my son wasn't healthy, if my daughter wasn't healthy, I'd have nothing in comparison to that. But if I know that she loves me, if my son loves me, if my daughter loves me, then I've been the man. And if I love myself and I'm in integrity with myself, then I'm the man that I wanted to be. I mean, to a huge degree, what I am in life is because I wanted the respect of the men I respected and wanted to be desired by the kinds of women I desire. I mean, it's like, who do I have to be to get that? You set out along that path and you find ways to be genuinely happy.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. And you put it out there. You meet people. You make sure that the world knows who you are. You sing your song in the forest. As writers, you go to writers' conferences. You put your books out there and put your picture on the back of the book. The person who you're looking for, you already know someone who knows that person. So be kind to everyone. Be nice to everyone. When you date and it's not that person, have integrity and kindness about how you separate, because that person knows the person that you want. And it's like, something, I went on a date with this lady and she's not for me, but I think you would love her. Let me hook you guys up. Right. So it's be kind to everyone, especially to yourself. And that's the lover's journey. That's the core of what it is. We could go deeply into any aspect of it, but frankly, this is it.
All right. Oh my God, this was just absolutely, absolutely amazing. You said one thing that was very profound about forgiveness. And I stopped live streaming because I think the people who showed up here today and they've been coming in and out, they get a little bit more than the people.
Yes, absolutely.
You said about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting and allowing it to happen once again. It doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't require proof to anybody else that you even
doesn't mean reconciliation. Has nothing to do with any of your behaviors. It has to do with understanding they're broken. If they could have done better, all they really wanted was to be at peace and loved, and they couldn't do it. Instead of that, they clawed your eyes out.
It's taking that boulder out of your stomach that you're carrying around.
That's right. You can't do that and fly.
Anger, pain, bitterness, right? Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person.
That's right. So you can, if you came from a bad family, forgive them and move on. You might never see them again. Never let them meet your children. You might decide to exclude them totally, but forgive them. Let it go. You live a happy life. I want each and every person listening to this to have the best and happiest life filled with passion and joy. I believe in love. I believe in success. I believe in energy. I believe that we can all have those things, but we can't necessarily bring our wounds with us. We can't necessarily bring those scars with us. We might have to be souls rather than just our histories.
Yeah, when you're having an intimate dinner,
Mm.
an intimate dinner is a table for two. It's not a table for you, your date, your trauma, his trauma. You know, you want to, I mean, yeah, that trauma is still there, but they shouldn't have to take up a whole seat when you're on the date.
Yeah. So that's
And we're not trying to give them therapy. We're trying to give them an orgasm. I'm just
Right.
there you go.
That's
I mean, it's
okay.
like, I'll tell you something. Yeah, I studied Native American spiritual magic, sexual magic for several years. And if you look at that in Taoist sexuality and tantrism and so forth, the disciplines that deal with sex as in an adult way, you know, without being prurient and without being smarmy and smirking, say something to the effect that the intensity of an orgasm is in direct relation to the amount of your ego that you release at that moment. In other words, if you can remember your name, it wasn't good sex. An orgasm in that sense is the release of ego in the same way that the flow state is when you're writing or painting or dancing. You know, you dance into, like they said in the movie Flashdance, you dance into the danger zone where the dancer becomes the dance. You're forgetting about the fact that we are two people and we get the physiological sign of being one, that we are together. This is happening. And what I want is for all of us to live that life of constant stimulation, constant moving forward, being able to share that deep companionship and be happy. And I would like to, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank each and every one of you who've been a part of this.
Yes, thank you all.
And I'd like to close this with the Sanskrit expression that means that the divinity within me salutes and acknowledges the divinity within each and every one of you.
All right, everybody.
Namaste.
Have a great
Namaste.
weekend.
Thank you. We've got somebody from Holland that stayed up
Wonderful.
late to be here. Stephen, many thanks to you and your wife for helping me realize that I need to make some serious changes in my life to heal the little girl in me. She had to grow up fast and never learn how to love herself and just be happy without fearing the worst from people. I closed myself off for many years, but hope to become more open and let people in. That's
Yes,
so serene,
that's what it's all
Anita.
about.
After you know you are safe, it is safe to let people in. First, be safe. First.
Yes. She's from Holland. She's across the pond, and she's
Okay.
from Curacao, from the little place of I think island of Curacao.
I was in Holland for one night, one time.
That's another Zoom.
That's another story altogether.
Okay.
I was working on a German television show. Anyway, take care, everybody. We're out.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, people, I'm going to stop the recording. Let's see here.